I love it.
I do remember it.
I do.
I can
remember.
say. Limb from limb.
Limb from limb.
I love
Welcome
it.
back to the Star Wars Guys podcast. We are excited to dive into another episode of Skeleton Crew, episode 4. Episode 4, Skeleton
halfway
Crew.
through.
4.
We're excited to dive into it. There's a lot to dissect from this episode, so thanks for tuning in. As always, we're your hosts, Mike,
Hello there.
myself, Nate. Hello there, and you know him well, Uncle.
I can't say I know no Star Wars guys. But
I can't say I've ever. I do know the Star
I do
Wars guys.
know.
Best podcast in the 7 seas.
He goes full, like just
Seven
full,
seas.
not even
Not
even Star Wars.
Yo ho ho and a
Just
What
bunch
is
of
it? The
podcast.
9? What's the 9 called? Planets?
the jewels of the
The
Old
jewels.
Republic.
The best podcast in the jewels.
jewels.
They destroyed the 8 other competing podcasts.
I like how it goes to a hook.
I know. It's just.
Yeah.
I also lose a little more of the smee of the.
I do to just a little
You're
more
fire. Exactly.
You got to.
Welcome back. 5 seconds in, off the rails. We love it.
Hard's
did
pretty
not
good
know
pirated up, man. It's
You
so
can't-
great.
Smee is fantastic.
It's awesome.
I love Smee so
I
far.
also love just the decision to make him SM33.
Yeah.
And that's Smee. And then in this episode, there's 33. Like they're
Yeah.
already giving him nicknames.
Nicknames.
It's
Yep.
already
Yeah.
it's already 3PO. It's like this. They've
Yeah.
already just
Yeah.
shortened it. R2.
R2.
I love it.
Great.
It's so great. There is a ton to get into with this episode. So we're excited. Episode 4. If you haven't watched the episode, obviously this is going to be a spoiler heavy review. So make sure to watch the episode and then come back if you haven't watched it yet. But yeah, we are excited to dive into it. We usually start with like overall thoughts. Overall thoughts? Yay? Nay? What do you guys think?
Yay, nay, a bucket of
rum.
No.
Go and a bucket of rum.
Is a bucket of rum a thing? I don't remember what the exact
Bottle
yo
of
ho,
rum.
yo ho. I don't know. Uncle,
I'm loving
overall
it.
Thoughts?
It's continuing. I was just we have it on in the background here, and it's these scenes on At Achrann are they're so cinematic. They cutting to these wide shots
Yeah.
to show
Yeah.
you. It just feels very cinematic.
Yeah.
Some of the silhouette shots that they have and the lighting and cinematography, it feels like we're watching a movie here. It's been fantastic, and the mystery being revolved or revealed, and the tie-ins to the High Republic that we're starting to see. Oh, wait a minute,
Yeah.
we get a lot more Easter eggs in this one.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
AATs from the prequel
Yeah.
battle tanks,
I love it.
so great.
Yeah.
Just loving it, bringing out the qualities of Star Wars that we like so much, the hopefulness of Star Wars
Yeah.
that we're
Yes.
seeing, and the shift of the characters moving. That Breaking Bad where they're crossing from one side to the other. where
Yeah.
feels like Neil is getting more comfortable in this finding his place.
world,
Standing
yeah.
up
You know what I
himself
mean?
A little bit.
Even the
Yeah.
excitement he had when he's like, "This is not home." It was not necessarily frightened. It was more the adventures continuing a little bit.
Yeah.
And Fern opening up about what really is inside, what she's really feeling.
Yeah.
Great. We did not get a reveal of KB's situation.
No,
No.
not yet.
I think
Which
some
I guess
KB.
it-
This was a Neil episode. I
For
think
sure.
some KB.
A Neil Fern, a
It's
little
coming.
bit episode.
Yeah.
Fern revealing a little
Yeah.
bit about how she's.
And we had Wim kind of in the first one.
Yep.
Yeah,
So we'll
yeah,
show
yeah,
a little
yeah,
bit of
Wim.
Fern, and next Republic, KB might come out in the next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some more Jod stuff.
Yeah.
yeah.
Loving the characters. It's so great.
Each character I think is so
Yeah.
great. They fit so well.
And I was thinking about coming up with Ahsoka coming up, or even Andor coming up, how it's going to feel different because these are kids in the in this grand galaxy, but they're just becoming aware of how big everything is.
Yeah.
And when we compare that to these other grand stories, we're like, yeah, but there are real people with real problems on a small scale that play into this
Yeah.
too. And we're getting to watch that. So it's a cool
Yeah.
contrast of these. We don't have Sith and Jedi battling here,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we have, these are life-changing things for people.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Loving it.
Yeah.
I'm also loving it. I really, really loved this episode. I thought this episode was, again, the things we've been talking about that we've really enjoyed so far about this show, I think have continued throughout this, continued and was consistent again in this episode, which is fun. It's an action adventure show, not like breakneck where you just can't catch your breath or like lacking emotional moments because
Right.
it doesn't. I think this
Yeah.
this episode was so great because I think it was some of the best emotional stuff they've
Fern,
done yet.
Fern's scene
great-
was moving.
yeah.
It was great.
That kid's a star.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
I mean, they're all doing good, but she's something special.
You
Yeah,
can kind
you
of
could
even
tell.
tell what
Yeah.
they're giving material they're giving her too. Like when you're like, this kid's got acting chops.
Yeah.
Well,
Like,
she's
we're-
captain.
Well, I mean, there's a thing. There really is a.
But no, she's been great. She's phenomenal.
There is with each of these kids. I mean, this is why it's so hard. I mean, this isn't the only reason. I've never been a movie director, but I would imagine one of the things that's very difficult if you're a casting director, or if you're just even like the head of a director in a movie, and you're the one who's in charge of this person plays this person plays this person. Nailing the actors. Again, you need good direction. But there's only so much you can do if you don't have the right people doing. Like if you don't have the right actors,
Yeah.
you can have great direction and it can get the most out of the actor.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't make someone who's someone who's never
Yeah.
been trained be Timothy Chalamet just because you're a good director.
Mhm.
Like because
Yeah.
they know how to do things with their face and know how to and I think these kids are so solid that I constantly I'm never thinking about them being actors when I'm watching.
Yeah.
No.
Which I mean, there's even times when there's been some adults in other shows where I notice the acting and I'm like, oh, that was I don't know. That
Yeah.
did-
Out a
that
little
did-
bit.
yeah, it took me
Yeah,
out of it a
I
little
agree.
bit. Or,
I agree. Yeah.
again, it's directing and acting is obviously connected as far as what they're getting at. But these kids are so impressive. The show I love so much. It is, it's just also a sense of fun. Like even something is what seems as dark as like, they're going to like an apocalyptic, war-torn planet. To us, I was even sitting there when I was watching this and thinking, man, what a great twist. Not just for this show, but the show in general, what a great twist that this is a way to show us a different thing in Star Wars that we've never seen before. That's like, okay, we, at this point, us in here are very familiar with, okay, in the main Star Wars that we know, on the main core planets that we know, we get the battle of good versus evil, the depending on the era you're in.
Yeah.
You've got the, you've got the Republic and the Separatists. You've got the obviously the Alliance, the Rebel Alliance versus the Empire and First Order and all that stuff. But in this, when you're immediately dropped into something new, we're back into that New Hope feel when we're like, okay, we're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
That we don't know everything.
Yeah.
Where when we're dropped into a Kenobi show, which I love Kenobi, we immediately know, okay, here's the pieces.
We have an idea of where things
here's
are going.
the timeline.
Yeah.
Immediately we know, okay, this person is supposed to be on this side, this person, and then you'll have characters that switch and do stuff, but you have an understanding of the galaxy. This is like, we're like, where are we? What's this planet? There's tanks. We're like, are those the good guys or the bad guys?
Right.
Are there good guys and bad guys on this planet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me going, man, Eopies get that big? Those are some big Eopies. I just am loving it. We'll get into the details, but I'm loving the show so much. I think that it feels like just and it's not even a shot at other shows, but like you can tell that John Watts has a steady hand, like control vision over what, and again, even though he's not directing all the episodes, this was directed by the Daniels, who did Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yep.
Which for a second, I didn't think it was necessarily the answer, but in my mind I thought, okay, if this is the Daniels, because I didn't know ahead of time for sure they were directing this episode, but I knew that one of their episodes was coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And when they get to a planet that doesn't look like theirs, I did for a second think like, okay, is there some time thing going on or something? Because I was thinking that's literally what they became famous for.
Yeah.
That's right. And then even Wim says that.
Yes.
We didn't fall asleep for like 100 years or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I was
you're
like,
right,
oh,
you're
man,
right.
Are they
Wow.
gonna do? And then again, turns out it's more of maybe like
You're right.
a Truman Show-esque of like, I mean, not necessarily like that there's actors or anything like that, but like we knew. This will be my final point on this, and then we'll pass to Nate. What I love that this show both simultaneously spent the first few episodes kind of talking about the monotony, mundaneness, and kind of like sometimes you just want to get out of the suburbs because it's all this, it's all the same, and it kind of has like this little commentary on it. Then this episode goes, man, the suburbs are pretty
These
great.
don't seem,
Yeah.
seem so bad anymore.
Now you're like, oh, I would just kill to go back
Yeah.
to my just neighborhood and ride a bike around.
Yeah.
And you're just like, because it's always like, well, in proper context, you're like, what you think is boring,
Yep.
this child is is in danger and is having
Constantly
to
in
kill
battle.
for food basically
Mhm.
to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just there's so many big concepts they're dealing with, but the fun stuff is just I love it carrying through for me. I love it.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys are saying. I think it's fantastic. I think the acting, the kids have been great. The story's been great. And I said this, I think, last week too, but it feels, even though Acolyte was heavily involved in a murder mystery, like we knew every episode was, all right, we're piecing these things together.
Mm-hmm.
Even though this isn't the focus, is the mystery, it is very mysterious. There's a lot of questions that I leave every episode like, okay, that's a new question. Okay, where is this going? Like you had said, it's new planets, it's new. They mentioned the Old Republic.
Yeah,
So
these
not
the
even-
9
not even
jewels
the
of
High
the Old
Republic.
This is the Old
Oh,
They're
Republic.
mentioning the Old Republic
Right.
and these.
But then references to the High Republic with the Great Works is
With the
actually
Great Works,
a phrase.
yeah.
Now we don't know exactly what that means in this context,
Mhm.
but that's a phrase from the High Republic. So you're
Yeah,
like,
and we don't even know
this
if
is-
that originated from the Old Republic, that the High Republic. So there's
Yeah.
a lot
Blasted.
of stuff to dive into, and for them to kind of flesh out, some of which we may get answers for, some of which we may not. But it's fun to see this unfold. I love Smee. I think Smee is
he's
fantastic.
a home run
Uh,
droid.
It's funny because I
great.
think about each character, even the kids. You take out one of these kids, you take out Jod, you take out Smee, and I'm like, this totally doesn't fit. It's not the same. Like, I think of each character and the impact that each one has had so far, and I'm like, all right, this is already 4 episodes in. I'm like, yeah, I see the significance of each person's character, each person's personality, and you see it playing out. And they do seem to be doing a little bit of a focus on the different kids each episode.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool to see a little bit more
Yeah.
backstory, like Neil
Right.
in this episode was a little more upfront. So it's fun to see their character kind of come out, and on screen we see a little bit of Fern and her moment there.
Mm-hmm.
But overall it's been great. I love it. We got Darth in the chat. Welcome. Paul in the chat. Welcome. Darth says,
I can't remember no At Attin.
Only Master of Evil, Darth.
Lol. What's his
although the
little first
episode
name?
was good, it was a little too short for what was happening. When
Put
it
me
comes to
down
these
for everyone.
when it comes to these Star Wars
Short,
shows,
an
I
hour.
feel like I leave every episode feeling like I wish it was longer.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then Paul says, hello, since the last episodes were focused on the kids, I think we will get a Jod episode now, maybe with some backstory.
I think some
Could be.
I think some Jod, and I think some more parents next episode.
Maybe
Okay.
some
I
more
think was
parents.
this the first episode with zero, maybe of
Zero
the parents?
parents.
Yeah, they were.
We could get a little more. and
Just
I
of,
don't
like,
think
what
they'll
they're
focus
trying-
super heavily on them, but it'll definitely go back to
I
them
could see a
because-
tie-in with revealing more of Jod with him coming to KB's rescue.
Mm-hmm.
If something happens
Yeah.
with her and he's again able to be, because he is the adult.
Yeah.
He has experiences in life that they don't have.
Yeah.
And it could be something happens where he's like, oh, I can, and he's able to help.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He also, just the nature of his character,
Yeah,
he's also more likely to step in and retaliate without hesitation. Like,
that's true.
like if he sees one of them in trouble, the kids might be more.
They're
That's
gonna pull out
bad.
a blaster.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he-
pull out
he wouldn't
blasters.
hesitate.
He wouldn't hesitate to jump
No.
in. And
Let's do a little Jod check right now. So what do we think about? So it seems like when the kids, it seems like he legitimately was like, those 4, I need them.
Yeah.
When he was talking, he brought the Yopies. He shows up and kind of saves the day. Which, by the way, let's rewind. What do we think happened when he walked?
well,
It's so interesting that they
we know what he
don't
says
show
happened.
stuff.
Yeah,
There's
Yeah.
a lot of stuff that happens off camera
We
with him.
briefly talked about Mike and I briefly talked about this on our way over, but
Because I love the switch up from he's talking and come on baby, and he's
Yeah.
babysitting,
Yeah.
and then when he's like
trying to
all
jog
right,
his
let's-
memory.
yeah, he's trying to get his memory going again and get him remembering At Attin, and he's like, all right, let's go outside, and he takes him out there, and then all of a sudden out of the mist, which I thought that was a cool shot.
that was
Yep.
a cool shot.
that they were in there, and he's like, oh boy, just shoot me.
just shoot me.
Yeah.
Done.
And then it cuts, and he's by himself with the Eopies. We're like, are we gonna find 50 people
And
with
kill 'em
snapped
all?
necks?
Yeah.
How
Or
did they do this?
what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we know that he claims that he gave them the credits.
Yes, which I do think is probably true. We saw him looking at the credits.
Yeah.
He did seem. I thought the acting was funny. I thought his acting was great, and I thought it was a very funny choice of when he's talking about the credits, and Wim's like, "It's mine," and he's like, "Yeah, but it was to save your life." It's like,
Yeah.
But even he's like,
He's like,
"Yeah,
"Come
I knew
on."
that was a little."
And
But
he
it's
didn't
interesting.
deny it though
I-
either. He's like,
I'm
"Did you steal my
rethinking
credits?"
this
He's like,
now.
"Yeah."
I'm rethinking this now. I mean, so on the spaceport, those credits are highly valuable.
Yeah.
What are they going to do with those?
You mean the people he
What would the
supposedly gave
What would the
them to?
Hattons
might
do
have
with
gave him
those?
something.
Yeah.
You might have gave him something off the ship or
Yeah.
something.
I think it might be. I might be.
There's
they
a reason they didn't show it.
fought
I know.
somehow. They fought or something,
Because
which makes you think: what if he uses the Force to manipulate? So, because I mean, it would be if he could
Yeah.
solve this problem and keep the credits. That would be.
That's
That's
what
the
he would
ultimate
do.
win for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
so
what he
he's
would
got
do.
them all. He still has all the credits, and
He
I
just
don't know.
manipulated them.
I found it odd that he would give them a couple of, and he even said a couple
Yeah.
on this planet where you can't. What are they can't trade those.
Yeah.
They're not
Yeah.
actually leaving and coming back. They're
Yeah.
living in poverty. Who's gonna take those? Maybe. I mean, it
Maybe.
could be. They're like,
And
oh
as-
yeah, we could trade
Maybe
those.
that's
As
they're-
much as-
maybe they're like, if I can get out of here, that's my ticket.
As
Could
much
be.
as we
Yeah.
think probably
But,
too.
but
is-
they didn't show it. So I'm wondering
That's-
if there's
yeah.
They
something
didn't
more.
show it, and they didn't show
more
any of them
interesting.
with him when
No,
he shows
they're not
up,
there.
which I
No.
thought was interesting.
And we just walked off with.
And he
Yeah.
even he
With
even's like,
them.
"What are the chances that I come across your enemy?"
And there were a lot of them. I know. So I don't know. It could
Yeah.
be. That seems like a reasonable explanation.
the-
but
Yeah.
At the
They
very
didn't
least,
show it, so
I
I'm
like
wondering
that
if
they
there's
don't
some more
show it to
mystery.
maybe keep us wondering, like,
Yeah. We
is
might
he
get
telling
that.
the truth? Yeah.
yeah, as
Yeah.
It could be
was it
just
Paul
even
that
for
said that. So maybe next episode we find out. Wait a minute.
Like Acolyte, you find
Wim's
out.
like, wait a minute. All of my, this is
I
the
am
same
here.
amount I had before.
Yeah.
What did you do?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or he took them. He's got a
Or he's-
couple. They're just in
or
his
he just
pocket.
kept 'em
Like he
maybe,
kept
yeah.
some because he's
They find
still
him.
Crimson Jack. Like
Neil-
that's.
Yeah.
They find him and like, wait a minute. There's the same amount.
Well, I'm curious because saw someone else mention this too. Of we're 4 episodes in, but we can't forget that when we first saw him. So far, we've seen so much that I do believe I think he has a legitimate connection with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yeah.
legitimately came up and hugged him.
Yeah.
And he seemed like he actually
His
actually
yeah.
likes the kids.
his
So I
guard
don't
is
think it
starting to
looks
come
like-
down with the kids. Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
his little banter on the ship with them, like this is not just some crusty old pirate who's like, I'm just trying to like. I'm saying he's not acting in a way that's like, no, this means nothing to me. I'm just like
You're
it
just
seems
a means
like,
to an end. Yeah.
He does have like we talk about like a Jack Sparrow. Like
Mhm.
it feels like maybe there's a better person inside there that actually is pretty obvious to the audience
Yeah.
Yeah.
when he's not around his pirate people and stuff. But it is interesting. Someone, when I was listening to someone talk about the episode, someone reminded me like, oh, if this is who we believe it is, if we believe that this is Captain Silvo, because we didn't see his face in the first scene, but we believe that's obviously
Mm-hmm.
him.
Long John
He
Silver.
immediately, that's great.
Long John Silver.
He walks onto that ship that they're raiding and immediately throws the captain out of the airlock and like he's like just murders him. So like this is not someone who's like, oh yeah, I just kind of get my hands dirty to like you're like no,
Yeah.
he's shown
No, no,
like
I'm-
straight up cruelty and like
Yeah.
all right, throw him out of the air. He didn't say like throw him in the brig. Like okay, kill him. Like
yeah.
so
Yeah. That's
he's done
true.
some stuff just 4 episodes ago.
That's true.
That I'm like I wonder. I think usually what ends up happening in a lot of these shows is that they start down this redemptive path, and then there's like a relapse or like a setback.
We're gonna have a
Yeah.
disruption.
moment. We're gonna have a disruption of it that then causes the kids
To be
to
like, can we
momentarily
really
distrust him?
Yeah.
because
exactly.
they either
And us.
find out, they either find
Yeah.
out that he's lying about the credits thing, and maybe
Mhm.
he stole the credits from him, and they find it on him, or
Mhm.
they find
Yeah.
out that he killed all those people, and they're like, "Whoa, that
They get
was."
back to the ship and they find a corpse. Like, wait a second.
He gets maybe
Yeah.
frustrated, like they try to get to the next planet, and something happens, and he like maybe
Lashes
blatantly
out.
does something in front of them, like whether it's being cruel to someone they come across, or he kills someone or something. I would expect that there's going to be some. I don't think it's going to be just a trajectory of
No.
we meet him.
Some
It's
setbacks.
smooth
It's
yeah.
sailing
episode
in
4
there.
Han Solo,
Exactly.
where if money is all that you want, then that's what you'll receive. He's like, I gotta get out of here, baby.
Yeah.
I got a price on my head. Or
Yeah.
he's leaving, but then comes
Exactly.
back.
Yeah.
It could be.
I feel like there's going to be
Yeah.
something.
That's why we're
along
getting the
those
build
lines.
up.
John.
They
Yeah.
make it feel one way so they can.
True.
Yes.
True.
There's a lot of this episode that
Challenges.
felt like that in a good way.
Yeah.
It felt like this seems almost too easy. Like, this happened too quickly. Not like in a bad writing way, in a good writing way, because then we find out, of course, the story is not there yet. When they're heading into what we think is At Attin, I'm even thinking, man, halfway through episode 4, we're already going to be back.
Did they destroy
And of course, they're not. We're on At Achrann. And
the homes look identical.
Homes look identical, so let's talk about that. So the jewels of the old Republic.
The jewels.
Was it Kim? Is it the owl character?
Kim. Yep.
As Kim had said in the previous episode, she charted out some of the maps and the star charts of how to get there, and she we think accidentally, sends them to At Achrann.
Mm-hmm.
We then get the reveal at the end of this
Which is one of the
episode.
possibilities. She had all these possibilities.
Yeah, one of
we
the
get
9.
to and we get to the end of this episode as a result of them we didn't even talk about like the kids fighting in this war like all this stuff they're crushing it with Neil, the trunk like shivering because he's
Neil
scared.
is fantastic.
But the reward of all this, they end up telling him they get to go to the Fallen Sanctum, I think is what they call it.
Yep.
They go up the tower, and then we get to the reveal of, okay, we have these coordinates not just for At Attin, but for the different 9 planets.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll get to the Smee stuff in a second. But I do wonder, moving forward, does every planet, since they're identical, you go to the next one, you go up to the same room. If Smee, if SM33 hasn't taken it out yet,
you could find the
they
coordinates.
find the coordinates
That's
there.
where they got to go.
And so you got it there. So this could be
Gotta go to
an episode or two more of we got to check the
yeah.
next planet. We got to check the next, and we got to, and then one of these that he hasn't gotten to, unless he's gotten to all of them, you get, or at the very least, you come across another, because the supervisor on this planet, who is like in charge of the military stuff, he knew. When they said At Attin, he knew exactly what they were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So at the very least, they're finally like, okay, we're off the pirate port place where everyone's like, At Attin, that's a myth. They got to a guy who lives in one of the planets in a community, and they say At Attin, and he goes, okay, and like basically like, I can give you a little info because I know exactly what you're talking about, but. So I'm interested just to see.
It's not the myth. It's not
the
Attin.
thing.
That doesn't exist.
Yeah,
That's
I like
legend.
that we're getting closer to, because I think now as an audience, we do know for a fact that there's something like very intentionally. They talked about the jewels of, they called these planets jewels of the Old Republic, but there's something intentionally going on currently on At Attin to prevent people
well, they
from
mentioned
understanding
it. Kim
what this
says
is going,
that
or
your
what's going on
planet
here.
has intentionally hidden itself for
Yes.
1,000 years.
But I'm
or
wondering,
something.
like, does Fern's mother, do people know?
Yeah,
that,
how many
people? How long has it been going on? And do the people that still live there?
Yeah.
How many people know what's going on?
At Attin, I think we'll find out that it's the only one of the 9 left.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
and
agree.
left in
others
what?
have been
Left in what
stripped.
sense? Yeah, okay.
They've
Because
been
this was
stripped.
interesting. That this one
They've
had
been
people
stripped.
on it.
They're
They've
in
been, and maybe
dystopian.
They actually
now.
said
It's
they've been
not.
destroyed.
Well, here's the thing.
which was interesting because I wondered who destroyed these.
it makes me think a couple
the
things.
culture maybe.
Yeah.
The
It makes me
civilization.
think with the identical homes and stuff and the culture and the planet looking similar, was this some sort of utopian experiment where they were trying to see which one may flourish?
Mm-hmm.
And then what also makes me think is, if At Attin is as rich as it is, how did they get all the wealth? Did they destroy the other planets? Did they turn on them and accumulate all the wealth? Or were those other planets destroyed and now that's what caused them to be, we're cutting ourselves off because people are coming for us
Set up the
like they did
beacons
all
to-
the other planets.
Yeah.
They're coming for us like they came for all them. And we need to create this barrier, as they call it,
Yeah.
to protect the planet, and just we're doing our own thing. Nothing else in the galaxy matters.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple different ways it could
They
go,
gave
but it
me
makes
some
me
vibes
wonder.
that the Hat and the Troiks are like related to Nihil in a way. I had a,
Totally,
like a
yeah.
vibe of
I
like
felt the same
It
thing.
felt like that
this
as well.
feels similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
so
agree.
what if they hunted them?
It
like
also-
way back? They were
Well,
hunting
and they're
these
pirates.
planets. They're pirates.
They're pirates. The Nihil are
That
kind of
whole
they're
vibe.
pirate
in this
vibe.
part of the galaxy.
And one other thing too about Smee and what he accidentally confessed was like, I did that. He's the one who ripped the coordinates to At Attin off of the stone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then it also makes me think, okay, Well, who was Smee's actual captain?
Yeah,
Is it
and
someone
how
we know,
long
or is it
ago-
someone? Is it someone that's
How
just
long ago
totally
was that?
unknown?
It could, a long time ago.
Is it
Yeah.
someone we totally don't know and it's irrelevant, which that could
Mhm.
very well be, or is there some significance to who that captain was?
That's right.
Now we do know there's skeletons on there, so they've been there for a
And
while.
they were fighting each other.
They were fighting
Fighting
each
each
other.
other.
They've been there for a while.
And-
Now I'm
and
not
he
an
said-
expert in skeletal death. I don't know how long it takes. I don't know if that's. I can't tell from there if that's a skeleton that's been there for 100 years or if it's been there for 30
It's
years.
got to be a while. It was literally buried under a mount, like a hill.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
true.
It has
It
to
was
be
either covered up or
I don't know.
it has to be
it's
there
a big
for a long
ship
time.
to be buried. That
Do we think it
Yeah.
was intentionally buried?
could be
Like,
because
it crashed
they-
there,
they
and
knew
then the
where it
people
was.
there covered it up because there's like we don't have anything to do
Yeah.
with this,
Could be.
or also the autopilot thing coming in.
Yeah.
That he
still
was able to
functional,
override.
whatever was set up was still
Yeah.
going.
So it's interesting that I wonder how long ago some of these jewel planets were quote unquote destroyed, because clearly I
Yeah.
mean there's children there.
Mhm.
People are still repopulating that planet.
right.
And it's destroyed compared to the others, but it's not like uninhabitable or someone didn't come just wipe out the entire planet. Also, who destroyed it? Like, especially if you're saying this is a jewel of the old Republic,
Mm-hmm.
for what, a 1,000 years, 500
Yeah.
years, they've continuously lived on a planet in squalor. Like, has this
Yeah,
planet been like
seriously.
literally this desolate planet?
Mm-hmm.
Has
Hey,
it been like
uh,
this for hundreds or 1,000 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I like that. We don't see a ton of like it was interesting seeing in Star Wars, because a lot of shows do, especially nowadays, you have these like apocalyptic shows,
Yeah.
whether it's like what's that? I didn't even see it, but the show, what's Fallout? Is this a show that's on?
Yeah,
Fallout?
I
Yeah,
watched that.
yeah, Fallout.
That
You've
was
got
really good.
obviously you got going
Was
back
it?
to like
Okay.
Walking Dead. You've
Yeah.
got shows like that, Last of Us stuff
yeah.
that
Yeah.
something massive has happened.
Yep.
It's cool when we're just dropped into it briefly in Star Wars, and it's like it's not the thing of the show, but it's like the thing of the episode.
Yeah.
I think is
Yeah.
cool because that's something we've never seen.
Yeah. We got Darth also mentioned in the chat. We know that they will return to the known galaxy because we haven't seen some of that stuff from the trailers yet.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
That's
they'll
true.
maybe they'll go back to Kim to find out the other coordinates, or they have some possibly from the
We may be going to the next planet
from
to
the
figure
different pillars. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing I thought too with Smee is how much of the quote unquote override actually works as her being captain, because even though she did the override and made him confess and that stuff,
His memory
his
systems
memory
are still
was
connected to
was
the
still
old.
connected to the old captain to
Yeah.
initiate those orders.
KB's gonna fix that though.
I love that
Yeah.
tied into what we see Fern do in episode 1 to her droid at the house. Like,
Yeah.
I love that was intentional.
Yeah.
They show us for 30 seconds
Yeah.
a little
An
interaction
override.
of,
Override.
overriding the thing, and then now it ties into something important to find the
Yeah.
info. But yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that's could be where KB
Comes into play.
comes in. She even said like, "Oh, we have to override this and do 3 million
It's only
something
about 3 million
circuits."
lines.
And Jad goes, "Well, good luck with that."
Yeah.
It's
I
only
think
about
so.
4 million circuits.
But we don't know. KB might be thinking it's only 3 million.
I
Like
could do
KB,
that.
I
He's
can
got-
calculate that, right? I
it
did
takes
it.
me back a couple episodes ago when they were like, "So to fly the ship, you're gonna do this and this, and then here's and then it was, oh, it's
You
like,
got
yeah,
it?
that makes sense.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
got it. Yeah, got it."
Neil?
I love
Yeah.
it. Neil was a major standout in the episode. His interactions with the Troik girl,
Hana.
Hana, yes. When she's talking to him, and it was just one of these great examples of a character growth moment for him,
Mhm.
because he's having, and it ends with him at the end coming back and being limb from limb. Hey, leave him
Limb from
alone,
limb.
and like him just
Yeah.
really putting himself out there to
Right.
save his friends.
Yeah.
I love Jod always go for the off switch.
Oh, yes, yes.
And then he's, I love
Passing
Neil
out.
passing out. But I love throughout this, him being like, whether it's, I'm trying to think of a good example. I don't know if he's the Neville Longbottom of this show. Like he's something in there where there's this emotional, like I mean, it's not a great comparison maybe, but like his friends are Hermione and Harry Potter, and like his friends are these brave kids
that want
they're going and
the
doing
adventure.
this, and he's just like shivering in his little nightgown, basically like, oh, Trevor. It's just waiting for them to freeze him. And I just love it. I think that it's such an interesting character. I think all these characters are great, but one from a technological feat, it's really pretty groundbreaking or pretty like amazing. What I think, how much you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, I know, because I've seen the behind the scenes stuff that there's just a boy standing there and like that, but they make it look so seamless that like even though when the trunk's moving stuff, it doesn't take me out of it. I'm like, this
not at all.
No, listen to this sweet elephant boy with a great toupee.
Come on, move your trunk.
Move your trunk. Yeah, that was great too.
Yeah.
Come on, move your trunk.
Move your trunk.
I love it. There's so many good.
And Neil is the hopeful.
moments.
I mean, there's real room for him for his arc to become heroic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
The hero who doesn't seek to be the hero.
Yeah.
That's
Doesn't seek the adventure, but the
No.
adventure finds him.
and then they rise to it.
Yeah.
So
And we talked about it a little bit too of Neil's, like, they tease basically that even if they leave this planet and never come back, they tease that his impact on the girl who could one day become their leader, leader of that planet, or that tribe, showed that there's an alternative to just war, constant war.
That's
all
right.
these years.
Mm-hmm.
And he does it in a an innocent kid way of I would just say sorry.
Yeah. Right.
But they're highlighting the fact that it actually did make an impact on her of like, oh, that's an option.
Mm-hmm.
That's not like you can make peace.
That's
It's like what? And so you see her be touched by that, and like you said, being a hero. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that Neil's going to come out with a laser sword and strike down the whole First Order.
That's right.
Now, if he did, that's where this show ends.
He did.
Wow.
But you can be heroic in those ways too, and I think that's they're showing Neil elevating to that role.
I also love Neil's like his innocence of just like, you should come with us. You can stay with me. Like you can stay with us
in our house.
Yeah, like
he
this
really
girl you just met is gonna come live with your elephant family. Like I just
He's
love
the
it.
daughter of a warring tribe on a desolate planet.
Warrior tribe's gonna.
You can go to my school and
You
everything.
go to school. Well, you did miss the placement exam.
Yeah, you
so
probably have to be a janitor,
tough.
but you could be good
Oh,
at it.
okay. I'm seeing it because we got the episode. We always play it behind us, just on repeat.
Yeah.
They showed the statue of this planet. I wanted to ask, do you think there's any significance to that? Will we see, if they go to another planet, will they see a similar statue in a sense that, like, it's this one person over all these different planets?
Wow. And we'll
That's
find
kind
out
of
who it is.
behind this thing? Or because there was no head, so they intentionally were showing this is not. This is obviously, there's a statue, which typically resembles a prominent figure.
Or was that a leader on this planet or a
There's a
leader of
leader
the...
that oversaw all of the...
It's wearing a suit, right? It's a man. That's a man.
I think so.
Mhm.
That's the way it looked.
It looked like it. Yeah.
What's his name? No Head? General No Head?
Yeah, General No Head. Yeah,
I love
Captain
the kid
No Head.
banter.
Captain
Like
No
that's
You think his name's Captain No Head? It could be.
It could be.
I like I saw someone else say this too. I think what this show is good at is their writing. For the kids sounds like it's in kid voice. Meaning
Yes.
it's written by someone that feels like who has been around children.
Mhm.
Where
Yeah.
like we've all seen shows or movies where there's like a kid who gives a moment of dialogue and you're like, this
No.
writer's never seen a child. Like,
Mhm.
that's
Like
not,
that doesn't sound like something a kid
Doesn't
would
make
say.
sense.
yeah, it's
Yeah. No, this
but like
is
the
very
little back and forth, the even like of course like in his mind, first thing you think of is like it's Captain No Head.
Captain No Head.
His name's Captain. He could be. Like, it's just like,
yeah. It is. It's so
Yeah,
great.
it's
It's so
streetwise.
great. But it's those things that make it feel that much more real. Because you're like, oh, not only would I say that, I've said that when
I've
I was
said that before.
20 years ago. I
Yeah.
was saying the same thing.
I like that they
I was
also
wondering
are.
the same thing.
I like that characters are asking the questions that we're asking. So we're again looking at the screen here when we're introduced to this planet and you see these children fighting. I immediately go, is this a planet of children? Is this a Lord of
Yeah.
the Flies like
Is he
type
taking
of
over
thing
from the
with
parents who are trying to run
yeah,
the planet? And the
I
kids?
love that they start saying all that and like what? And then like there's a bunch of parents that just come around the corner.
Yeah, and they're
Yeah.
like, no, we just treat all the
You just
kids
treat them
the
like
same.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's great because right when they were asking that, that's what I was thinking. Like, is this we're just seeing kids? Like, that's interesting. And then
Yeah.
immediately they asked the question. They're like, no, dummy. Like,
No,
it's not.
we are just
No,
uh,
what do
Yeah.
you think we got here? We have
we're
parents.
soldiers.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
great. Visually, we talked a little bit
Oh, I
at the
think
very
it's
beginning.
looked
I feel like
looked really
it
well.
looks so
Looked
good.
good.
Again,
well,
I think
cinematography on this episode. This is a blue episode. Everything's.
yes.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
had some red episodes before
Mhm.
where everything's got a warm. This is a cool look.
This
Yes.
is. It's
So
a little,
it gives
Yeah.
you the impression it's a nice.
it's a little
change.
empire feel to it. With
More
Yeah.
of a greenish feel
Uh-huh.
on the home planet and
Yeah.
a little bit
Yeah.
of reddish on the spaceport.
But it does
this
the
is
way
a
it's
blue.
shot. It does feel big. It constantly even like they don't just show this kind of okay. Here's the room and here's this narrow. Like they constantly
they
are
show
zooming
the-
out and showing
Mhm.
different angles.
That's
That
why
The
Feels like you're
reconstructed
executing it
school,
really well.
like everything to a T is almost like what At Attin was.
just a
or
bad
is.
version of theirs. Right.
yeah.
Like it's the same building. He's like, oh, that's the school, and then they go in there and they're like, no, this is a whole clan that's living out of this building. Yeah. Man, there's just so much to unpack and to find out of
And they're
what
French.
actually happened. And the French.
Yes.
Didn't expect that.
No.
I was Abigail, my wife, when we were watching the show and right when the French accent came in, I immediately thought, wait, is this the first French accent we've seen in Star Wars? Because I was trying to think of the different,
Yeah,
obviously a lot
yeah.
of British.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of
um,
British.
We have
lot of British.
Probably when you look at it, there's probably more
But
British.
First French.
Australian.
British Columbia.
no, I know, just start shouting stuff. The we have
Skeleton crew.
we have whatever the Trade Federation is. I won't even touch that.
Oh right.
I won't
That's
even
canceled
touch
now.
that.
Yeah, that's
That's
interesting.
What do you mean you won't? You've done it on every show we've ever done.
I won't touch it, but perhaps someone else I know would.
Destroy all communications down there. Like, oh, okay, George. Like, is that the
Okay.
best we can go with?
Yeah. And the guy's like, "Are you sure?
Are you sure?
It's fine.
It's not over the top?
it's-
No,
it's-
faster, more intense?
It's,
No,
gonna be
faster,
fine.
more
It's
intense. All
gonna be
right.
fine. Do more.
I won't touch it, but perhaps I will. Because, we're going to make the Trade Federation great again. Bring back Viceroy Newt Gunray. He was a great leader when you look at it. But
When you look at it,
You don't look at it. He was the
He
complete,
was a
Nice.
yeah,
complete disastrous
scazball.
monster
Yeah.
who got slayed by Anakin as he should have on
Right.
Mustafar.
As he should.
It was the
That's
one bit
one
of
thing.
justice to
Yeah.
carry it
I
out.
was about to say that.
So they're not all bad.
Exactly.
Fine.
Oh man.
Uh,
Yeah, this show is so much fun.
yeah.
I look forward to
It's
it
a
week after
blast.
week. Halfway through, I always get sad when we get like halfway through. 'Cause
I
I'm like,
know.
oh man, we start getting closer to the end.
How many episodes is it?
I think 8. I
Eight.
think
We're halfway.
that's exactly what I just said. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant halfway through each episode. You
Oh
get sad.
no.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Because the
halfway through the
episode-
show.
Too.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, halfway
That was a
through.
bit confusing. He was still
17
thinking
minutes.
of Newt Gunray. He was thinking of Newt
Because I was
Gunray.
like, I do too. I get halfway through the
yeah.
episode and I'm like, darn, it's already.
No, I
a-
do that as
time.
well. Sorry, that is confusing. No, now that we're 4 episodes in.
Yes, halfway through the
halfway through
season.
the show. Halfway through the season.
Yeah.
Oh, they did talk about. I don't know if you guys saw this. That I think it was John Watts, who's the creator, showrunner.
Johnny what?
Johnny watched Johnny Be Good. He was playing the Michael J. Fox. He played the guitar, and
Marvin
Johnny Be
Berry.
they stole that.
It's your cousin you don't know. Marvin Berry.
It's Chuck. How many Chucks do you know?
And how
It
many
sounds
cousins
just
do you
like
have?
me?
Right.
The showrunner John Watts was talking about. He was already asked because the show's a hit. Like it's continuously gotten just great
Yeah, it
reviews
is.
week after week,
Yeah.
which I'm so
That's
excited
so
about.
great.
It's just a refreshing feeling, not
Yeah.
like being like, oh, I'm afraid to go on social media because
I
I
know.
like this. And
Was
he was
he's asked about
But
what,
he
season
said
2 or?
he was asked about the potential of a season 2.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I do feel like this show was greenlit and in a different time
Yep.
Like, and this is like 4 or 5 years ago now that they had, and like 4 years ago, I think that they had decided.
Wasn't
they were
that? It
gonna
was
do
at the
this.
investors.
By the way,
meeting.
if you ever want to know how
Just
old,
one of those.
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
want
it
to know
was.
how long it's been, look up the actors of this show, because they no longer look like that. I don't know if you know, because
Yeah.
this show was finished,
Yeah.
completed a year ago.
They don't look like that.
This show was
Yeah.
supposed to come out
That make it
last December.
complicated
They're-
for kids shows.
Yeah, and so
It
they
does.
talk about, what he was
They're a lot
talking about
older.
for a season 2. He said, yes, 1,000. I don't know the exact quote, but like, yes, 100%. I do have an idea of what a season 2 would be, very specifically, an idea of what we would do for season 2. Now, to do that, and he
We
spoke
need to de-age
frankly.
all the kids.
No, he said I do think that the way to do that is, though, you have to have a necessary time jump to match our actors. And he
Yeah.
said, and then it is funny
Yeah.
because I don't think he necessarily meant it as a shot, but I think he was just like talking out loud. He
If they'd
said,
done this faster.
he
it
said,
would've
I
been
don't.
done.
He said, I don't think we would do like a Stranger Things type of a thing where it's like supposed to be the next day, but the kids look like 3-4 years older, and we
Mhm.
just got to try to like make
It's
them
too
look
far
younger and younger.
for that.
It's just
Yeah.
that gets hard to do that. So he said, I think that we would have to. He said, now I have an idea of what that story would be because I've thought about that a lot. But I think we would have to. It would have to be like, the kids that are,
Yeah.
10, 11-year-olds are now 14, 15,
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
11,
Yeah.
12 are now 15, 16. They're
Yeah.
heading their high school.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
so you get into a little bit of that. So it's interesting because
Yeah.
I don't know, even if with this being a smash hit so far, I have no idea. First of all,
And
I
how
have no
does
idea.
Neil age?
I have no idea viewership
How
wise.
quickly
Right.
does Neil age?
Yeah,
I
what
haven't
does that
read
look
any. I
like?
haven't read anything viewership wise as far as what the numbers are, like of how many people are watching the show.
Yeah.
I know it's critically acclaimed. Like people love it. We love it.
I wouldn't be surprised if
I just don't know if they're doing a lot more Disney
if the
Plus
talk.
shows.
I wouldn't
in
be
the
surprised
meantime,
if
so
the
I don't
talk
know.
has brought more people to the show that didn't start with the show.
Yeah,
right off the bat.
I just don't. I don't know if this is going to be a long. Again, I don't think they have any live action show right now that's going to go beyond 2 years because Mando's. I mean, they've basically said that Mando's season was the last
Yeah,
season.
and even
Um,
Ahsoka too, and
it's
Andor
Ahsoka
too.
season 2. They said is going to start filming like mid next year, but that's even like a couple years away.
Yeah,
I
It's
just don't know.
It's an odd thing that we have shows that didn't hit well, and they had them all loaded up.
I
We're
know.
gonna go
Yeah,
have one that hits, and
They're
it's
like,
too
we weren't
late.
ready.
I know that's and
It's like
also loaded up
know.
with like the best creators and like they've got these people who are like, oh yeah, the Daniels, they went on to win an Oscar.
yeah,
Like you've got Bryce who wants to direct in this. You've got John Watts who
Who's
like these are
crushed.
TV
He's
people who's
crushed it.
crushed it as he's just did one of the most successful MCU films of all time with Spider-Man No Way Home. And
Yeah.
he did the whole Spider-Man trilogy. They've got all this huge talent. So there was something internally that when people saw the script, that creators flocked to it. Like they
I'm-
can tell,
I'm
they can
honestly-
smell it on it. Like this is a winner.
yeah.
And then the fact that they've actually executed it, you want it to feel like
Yeah.
great, stick with it, keep doing. But it's also hard if it's just not in the
Yeah.
plans. Also, it's hard to get movie directors like that to be like
I will say one
do
thing
TV
that does
continuously
shock
unless
me.
you're Favreau, who was
Especially
like
when they
Yeah.
get beat up so bad sometimes.
yeah.
Yeah, seriously. And one thing that does shock me is I feel like of all the shows that it didn't seem like this was a their like a major focus on the marketing side of things.
No, I don't
No.
think
They didn't market it as
Until,
much
like,
as
Yeah.
They didn't market it as much. Like act like they were so like there's a lot of stuff coming out about it. They were marketing it as this, different,
I know
darker
why.
take. And then they weren't sure, I guess, how they thought of the hit or it's just because they held back a little bit because of how other
Yeah.
things had come out. And so they were like, we don't want to push this, and
Mhm.
then it let people down, and so they didn't. But then they come out like a week before with the round table, and they're all talking about how they're like, oh no, we knew on set this was gonna be
They did.
a hit. They
Yeah.
did, yeah. But because of that, I'm like, that's interesting that they feel so strongly about it. 'Cause watching that before this came out made me that much more excited for the show. I'm like, oh, they're really
Me too.
they're
They
really confident in what they've got here. And now seeing it actually play out and
Yeah.
everybody loving it, and
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, they really knew what they were doing. It makes me wonder, well, they didn't do that for these
Well,
other shows.
Uncle knows why.
I know exactly why. And my daughter hit on it. Hannah hit on this too. I think it's great. She said, it's cool to see a movie or a show where it's a story where Star Wars is the setting, but it's not the thing.
Yeah.
I think there are some that believe Star Wars is the thing.
Mhm.
People want to see Jedi, and they want to see blasters, and they want to see spaceships. But that's not it.
Yeah.
We want the heart of Star Wars is what we've always liked.
Yeah.
Yes.
The hopefulness, the adventure. What's going to
journey.
happen to this person? Where are they going to... It's the good story.
Yeah.
So that's what made Star Wars so interesting is George took all of these crazy things, and they're really background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jedi, the Empire, that's background for this young boy finding his way in the galaxy, becoming a hero.
And George has said
That's
that
what
too.
this is.
George has said that too
Yeah,
about
you're
like
right,
I
you're
didn't
right.
make a thing. I didn't want to make a thing about spaceships. I put spaceships in there because I like
Because-
cars. And he
Yeah,
was
that's
like, yeah,
right.
I put it in there because like
It
those are the
became
things I
the
like.
vehicle
that was the
to
thing.
tell an adventure story. But then
Yeah.
somewhere
you're right.
along the line, people started thinking, or someone
That
think,
is the thing.
I
we
think
got to
it's-
have more lightsabers. People are like,
Yeah.
no, that's
Yeah.
cool, but that's not what we're watching for the.
I mean,
for the
think of
feel,
how
I
little
think-
actual screen time of lightsabers there are in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
obviously
very
in the
little.
prequels
the
there's a
very
ton.
few.
there are.
Yeah.
But
And
in the original trilogy, A
Yeah.
New Hope, you get a training moment.
That's
you
it.
get
And you get the
Obi-Wan
Obi-Wan
cutting
and-
off his hand in the canteen, and
in the
Luke
and then
and
you have
Vader.
the end.
Yeah.
Or you've got Obi-Wan and Vader, the slow fight, and that's
yeah,
it. In the
yeah.
first
Obi-Wan and
Yeah.
Vader in the first one.
What were you
There's
guys-
not a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I think exactly just touching on what, and we may have mentioned this on the podcast before, but it got to a point where it was we have to replicate A New Hope and Empire. We have to
Yes.
replicate
Yeah.
Star Wars, but Star Wars wasn't making Star Wars. Star Wars was replicating the
An old-
other things that George was inspired by.
Mhm.
And I think one of the things that they talked about, and this is, and John Watts even mentioned, I think, in maybe the roundtable or something, they're like, no, we wanted to go back to what inspired Star Wars and try to replicate some of the things
Yeah.
that we enjoy and not
Mhm.
just look back and be like, oh, let's try and capture lightning in a bottle again with Star Wars and
Mhm.
Empire and
Yeah.
the original trilogy.
I would argue that's one of the reasons Mandalorian hit. I think Mandalorian, and that was what a lot of people said when Mandalorian
It
came
takes
out.
the world for granted. This
Yeah.
is the world. It's not the world. Isn't what we want to
Mandalorian-
watch. We want to watch the story.
Mandalorian was
in
In
the
the
world.
world, yeah.
was a return to some different things that inspired Star Wars, which was
Yeah.
the Western, which was the samurai,
Right.
which was the
Right.
that was, and this is
This is the pirates, the
smuggler,
smuggler.
the young, again, they're
Yeah.
younger in this, but the kid who hasn't experienced a larger world yet, who's
who's
longing
for adventure. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And
thrown
Andor
into a
has
bigger-
that feeling as well.
yeah,
It's a story set in this, but it's not.
Yeah.
yeah, that's the same. And
The world isn't.
I
Every,
like
it's the,
that each
it's
of
what
these
it's set
shows
in, yeah.
lean into a different, and Andor leads into a little bit more of the political intrigue of it, or a little bit of the espionage
Yeah.
Right.
of it, but it's still
Yeah.
in the thing. Versus like what I think some people have criticized, and we're big fans of the sequel trilogy, but some fans or some critics of the sequel trilogy have felt like, oh, it feels like people who love Star Wars making Star Wars sometimes, and sometimes it feels like, oh, we're inspired by A New Hope, so we're trying to make something that feels like A New Hope instead of feeling like
yeah.
the things that
The
inspired
story
A New
that
Hope,
made
which
A
we
New
talked
Hope.
about, which
Yeah.
again, which is sometimes I think a little unfair how far people go with that criticism, but I get it. I get that you don't
Yeah.
want it to always, because if you're always making something that feels like the original, and you saw the original first, and the original is so good,
Mhm.
then you
can't-
get things that to be
yeah.
like, oh, this just
It
feels
can't
like
live up
that,
to it.
but
It's
it
too
comes
derivative.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
One other thing about so they were talking about the potential of a season 2, what that would be like timeline wise, what that could be like, and then there's also the news that Filoni said that Ahsoka starts filming next year, and we talked about this last week a little bit, that they're moving the production to London.
Mhm.
I am wondering, I'm trying to think, because we've had the announcement, we talked about that Disney investors meeting a lot of all the shows, and this I
Mhm.
think was the final one from that meeting that was announced, other than Orlando, which fell off, and then
Yeah.
now might be a movie. Obviously, Rogue Squadron
Yeah.
film off, maybe back on. But as
This is
far
the
as the
last one that
shows,
seems like it's
as far as the actual shows that have now moved forward,
Right.
this is it. You have Skeleton Crew, Andor's coming to its last
Mhm.
season. They've even started promoting Andor. If you saw this week a little bit on
Yeah.
social media, and they're even like see the conclusion. Like it's very definitive. Tony
Yeah.
Gilroy's not doing more
Yeah.
after this.
Yeah.
He's like,
the
I have
story
the
is
story.
going to have a.
This is it.
Well, we know it has an ending.
We know it
It
leads up
leads-
to
we know
yeah,
where
it
the
leads up
ending.
to
It
Rogue
only
One.
goes so
Yeah.
far.
But yeah, so it makes me think. I don't know. We've had conversations about where Star Wars TV could go,
Cassian Ender.
but I don't know. I can't wait for a little more scars here.
I know.
Man.
I don't really know what after. Like I'm trying to picture right now. If 2 years from now, if that will already have this show, at least this season of the show, in the rearview mirror, the Mando movie in the rearview mirror 2 years from now
Yeah.
already will have happened. You've got the Ahsoka season 2 will have already have happened. You're like, is there Star Wars live action on TV? I mean, even animated, we don't have.
Yeah,
that in this.
yeah.
I'm trying to think of what.
I think there were rumors that there was a new animated show in the works, but
There were
there
rumors
was
for a
nothing
while.
I think that was officially announced. But I think shortly after Bad Batch, there were rumors coming out that there's been a new animated show, Star Wars. Or,
and I
you
can't
know,
remember the timing
starting
of.
production and
Yeah.
starting.
Yeah,
but
there was talking about.
there
them.
were rumors, but I don't think. I mean, there wasn't.
So
anything
maybe
officially.
in
Yep.
is it Tokyo, Japan? Where's the let me I'm trying to think of where's the next celebration.
Tokyo.
Tokyo.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm wondering if it's
they'll announce
celebration
something.
there. I
Yeah.
don't know if there'll be again. I don't even know. It might even be celebration, which is just a handful of months away. That might even be too soon to announce anything if there are. I don't know what the plan is live action for the shows
Mm-hmm.
moving forward. So I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but it's. Do we think 3 years from now there's a couple of shows live action that have been announced? I don't know if there are even a couple
I
years
don't know.
from now.
I definitely think they're
I
pulling
think
back
they're
on
trying to lean
shows.
into the
I think they're
films.
leaning into the films. They want to make sure to put the resources and time towards that to get it right. But I do think, I don't know. I think as you were talking, it kind of made me think a little bit about, because we've talked about diving in, because they had some quotes come out about, heading towards their major, their winners, the Skywalker name, the Rey, Daisy Ridley being like their big hits.
Yep.
So why not continue to feed into that, because that's
Mhm.
what it's gonna bring people to the screen.
Yeah.
But we know they've obviously showed interest in trying to go towards other timelines as well, and with the High Republic that they've
Mhm.
done, and now that even mentions the Old Republic, they even had the timeline, the Dawn of the Jedi movie and script that's in the works. It made me think while you were talking, is it possible that they're trying to ease into some of that stuff by having shows like this that mention those things, so that then when that comes, it's like, oh, this is a reference to what was kind of.
Could be.
It's like, rather than just boom, here's an Old Republic movie, and everyone's like, oh, this is all out of the blue, not sure how
Yeah.
interested.
Oh, this
Or
has
are
a
they trying to
connection the
drop
Skeleton
this
Crew.
stuff that's like,
Interesting.
oh, this is, there's a connection here because it was mentioned in this. And
Yeah.
So I wonder if they're utilizing some of these things
That could be.
to slowly integrate some of that. I still think they're gonna, most of the eggs are going toward the basket of the Daisy Ridley and the Skywalker name, the stuff that they feel more confident because they already have a following for those.
Yeah.
But
Well, one of the things
we'll see.
one of the things about Acolyte, which could have led to another episode, it was a cost reward thing. If the cost for Acolyte was lower, they may have the upside
Yeah.
may have been more possible.
Especially with where it
Yeah.
ended
But
off.
they just can't. So if you have a low
Yeah.
risk, high reward opportunity that's shot on a that they can create something really exceptional, but not spend $200 million, that could be a possibility.
Yeah.
But again, they don't want something to look cheap. It's got to have
That's
to
the
be
hard thing.
going to have to be
Yeah.
done a certain way. But I do believe that film is going to be where they're
Yeah.
leaning, because the
I think so.
streaming model doesn't compute exactly
No.
right. It just
I mean,
doesn't.
streaming across the board, I think, has
It's hard to get.
Has-
it,
has
you know?
hurt.
streaming across the board. People are questioning like some Netflix shows. They're questioning even the viewership of like a House of the Dragon versus like obviously like a Game of Thrones like 10 years ago. Now television's different than it was.
Yeah.
but there are so many things out there to watch. Like I was watching a thing the other day just on YouTube of people talk. It was like our top 10 shows of the year, and they named them, and like half of them either I'd never heard of it or I've heard of that, but I literally don't know anything about. I've heard just the name of it, and I haven't seen even a lick of it. And I feel like I've watched a lot of TV this year. So like,
there's so many shows I want to get to that I can't even.
Dune.
Yeah, Dune. Dune. You even mentioned Fallout.
Fallout was good.
There's shows that I've been wanting to get to. I just haven't even been able to.
I think Amazon is in a position, and Disney is too, is in a position because the revenue they generate is so big from other areas.
Yeah.
That they can put money into a Lord of the Rings thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Disney makes so much money off of their movies that are still constantly coming out, even that aren't Star Wars too, like you're saying.
That's right.
I
And
mean,
like
Moana 2 just made like
that's what I mean.
crazy
well,
amount
and the
of
theme
money.
parks. I mean,
And the theme park.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a
Yeah.
huge cash cow.
So
Yeah.
They don't want to lose money on a film, but if it all feeds the mouse machine,
Yeah.
you can find a way around
you
these
can
things.
budget.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The studios
you're right.
like Amazon or like Netflix, where it's that's it.
Well, so this
that
is
model is they've laid off people. They've stopped
they're
putting
hurt.
money, and
I mean, they
This
took
is
the
why
Adam's
get-
saying their $6 billion deals are not coming around.
no,
anymore.
and they put in
No.
Just not,
tons
whatever
of
that deal was.
It was.
massive.
Yeah, it was something
they put
crazy,
in
yeah.
tons of money, like upfront,
Yeah.
like debt cost toward original content because they knew.
And
that
even their great
Netflix
shows.
was losing all of their.
It's not that they're bad; they're hit
Yeah.
shows, but it doesn't. People will sign up, watch the whole thing, and then cancel, and you get
yeah.
$12, $15, $20 even. It's not
Yeah.
enough
Yeah.
to fuel that whole
20
thing.
bucks even,
20
and
bucks.
sometimes it's not enough.
Not
That's
enough.
why we
Not
need to
enough.
bring back Rod of the Hut with Jeremy Allen White.
Which we haven't talked about this. Did you see the
Oh
you
yeah.
saw the casting announcement,
Yeah,
right?
I did.
The bear actor,
I did see that.
Yeah.
Jeremy Allen White, cast as Jabba the Hutt's son.
Yeah.
Like it's a real story
Yep.
Wow.
in The Mandalorian and Grogu. And I have
didn't
so
know that.
many questions.
Wow.
Because first of all,
Jabba Jr.
Jabba Jr.
How old
is
is-
he's
how old-
gonna be a hut who just says yes, chef. Yes,
how,
chef.
how old is JJ? And
I'm just trying to think of
Junior.
what in the world. The first, so I
How old is
I-
JJ?
I have seen a number of people talk about this already because it's been it was announced and
Can
then
I just say-
confirmed by the Hollywood Reporter, Variety, that yes,
You just scared
not
me.
only
This is me watching.
Here's the
Man.
thing.
yeah.
I have
Like,
one
yeah.
question. I have one
I'm
question.
like, wait, and I'm like,
I
wait,
have-
does he speak basic?
Trusting
Is he
Favreau
like
here. Come
are
on.
we gonna
Well,
hire
Jabba
someone?
has a voice. Like he still speaks, but
Yeah.
it's
No,
just
but
not.
like we hire an Emmy-winning actor of one of the biggest, most popular shows on television. It's a big
to
thing
do,
to be Jabba's
to
son.
not hear his voice, to not
and
recognize
to not
him.
even be
No.
seen. He's not even be seen to do a non-voice that you maybe could hire a voice actor for, just to do you could hire Shelby to do and just like someone who just couldn't do
You
like
hire a
great.
hater.
Yeah, but he does say
unless-
like Han Mabuki.
He does,
Like,
but he
there's
says
a little,
like
there's
he
a
does.
little language. There's a little
He does say Han Mabuki.
bit. He does say Han
I'm
Mabuki.
trying-
He
I'm
does
trying-
say Han Mabuki.
He says on my bookie, which and then he says on my bookie, and he says, Jabba, you're a wonderful human being. Which, quite frankly, when you look at the behind the scenes, there's a guy there in a fur coat when you see it on YouTube. So
Yeah.
you're not sure exactly what that was supposed to be.
I was
perhaps.
thinking
But it
he was
makes me
gonna
want.
have his son.
My first thought though when I hear that is, was
also love
was that
thinking, like-
Favreau or Filoni?
Yeah.
Well, what I'm
Because
thinking is
I'm like,
I've
I
heard
could
people
totally
talk
see
about
Favreau
this 'cause
being
it's-
like, "Let's
yeah.
do it."
I've heard people talk about this because I was listening to Force Center talk about this because they were like, "What in the world?" But they were like, they were like, my first thing when I read this is, "What in the world?" And then like second is
Has he
like,
taken over the
How?
Huts?
in
no,
the
and then a
world?
second they're like, and then I sat on it for 10 seconds and thought, "This is the most Favreau move in the world."
Yeah.
It
Of
is.
like,
for
and
sure.
also it makes you excited. Like
But
they're
it passed
cooking,
the
they're
Filoni
cooking up.
check.
Yeah, they're cooking
So
up
it's
something
like,
cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, like they're cooking up something cool. Like if you look back, this is like we hired Werner Herzog to be
Well,
be,
what's more? What's
and
more?
You're like,
How
what?
did Matt
This is
ever
like,
get that
what?
take?
How did
Yeah.
that happen?
Remember
Yeah.
Matt
I
had
mean,
that take?
He did. Matt said that. Matt said ahead of time.
How?
I have no idea. He's like, that'd be like if
Werner Herzog played
Herzog was in Star Wars. Like he is. They just announced that yesterday. I was like, you have to promise me. And he was like, how did you know?
I know.
Well,
he's
it
like,
makes
"That's
sense. If
crazy."
you got Boba coming to
You got Boba, you
Jabba,
But it
Mando
does. It
coming
does.
to JJ.
Well, and
Yeah.
also,
Coming to
if
JJ.
you look
J.J.
at
Abrams Hut.
yeah,
Is his middle name?
J.J. Abrams had
Abrams.
when you're looking at the time, it also does make sense if we've got Mando, and you need like a power
If you're
vacuum.
going to the huts, it's kind of
Think of what, because this
The
is
huts.
post Jabba.
Yeah.
We've already seen what's happened with Jabba's palace.
Yep.
in terms of Boba, and he said, we want to be crime lord, and then he said a day later, he said, actually, after I killed all those pikes, maybe I don't.
maybe I
And
don't.
The
Yeah.
pikes are like, that would have helped 24 hours ago, but
Well, he wants the family palace back.
He wants the palace back.
The huts are taking over.
The more I just keep thinking about it, like, it's just such a and then they hired Timothy Chalamet as Watto's son. Like, I'm just thinking, like, I love that we get someone who's famous. Like, at least Sigourney Weaver is like going to be seen, I think, as Sigourney Weaver. But it's such a Favreau.
It is you, Mando.
It is you, Mando.
Mando.
It's such a Favreau thing too, of like, we like what they've done with. He had some of these
There are
casting
these actors
things.
though that say, "Oh, I'll do it. I would love that."
I know.
Let's
Well,
do
also
it.
makes
think
me
about it. Well,
excited
how
hearing
much
people
play it.
effort? I mean, how much recording does that take?
Well, also like
I don't know.
this.
I mean, it can't
Well,
be.
he may not.
He could
you
be
know.
a big part of the movie. Like if you're showing. So again, because I think
I know.
Rod
but
of
if
the
you're-
Hutt is in the Clone Wars movie. Like that's what we're going back to. Which
Yeah.
is such a like this is a
It
Filoni
is a
Favreau. Like this is
Filoni.
this feels like
Absolutely.
a Favreau being like it feels like a co-decision. Like this because it's also weird.
Are we gonna get Gar
Listen,
Saxon?
We joke about Favreau picking weird stuff.
Probably.
We joke about Favreau picking weird stuff. Dave's hands are not clean. Dave picks
no,
some
no.
weird stuff.
Purgles was a
Oh,
Filoni.
yeah. for
The-
sure.
I mean, maybe even weirder.
Like
Like,
whales
sure.
that
They-
lead to
yeah.
different parts of the galaxy. That's it.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Favreau
and made their way to live action.
and they made their way.
And everyone
Favreau-
loved it.
I know.
Favreau may have the lines like, "Yeah, McClunky means curtain," so we're gonna do this. But Filoni goes like,
World Between
he goes
Worlds.
crazy too. World Between Worlds.
Filoni goes world
Space whales,
between
puffer
worlds.
pigs. Like these are all things that are his.
That's right.
Filoni is so interesting to me because I wonder where is his line, because he'll go puffer pigs, space whales, and but then when Favreau says McClunky means curtains, he goes
You can't put
we
that in.
can't do
We
that.
can't, guy.
We can't do that. So it's like,
Yeah.
where is
What's funny
his-
is it feels like
He's
the
okay
two
with
of them
puffer
combined.
pigs,
Puffer Pigs is
but
okay.
McClunky is
It
too
feels
far.
like Favreau and Filoni combined make up one George Lucas. Like
Yeah.
Favreau is that
They're both halves of the-
inventive tech side of George that drove a lot of his career of like
Yeah.
as much as I want to do Star Wars, he's like I want to do experimental films. These like it just turned out that the prequels were the experimental films that he had wanted to
Yeah.
make his whole life.
Right.
He was like, I want to get done with Star Wars so I can make experimental films. And then he experimented through Star Wars. And then he finishes
Yeah.
like, oh, that's kind of it.
Yeah.
But he always wanted to push the boundaries. He knew these classic Western, this. But then George also leaned into the prequel-y stuff. And even in the original trilogy, like, what's going on in this cantina? All these weird things.
Yeah.
Where, like, Filoni feels like he knows
Yeah.
the lore like the back of his hand. But he loves to lean into the weird.
Mm-hmm.
Favreau doesn't know the lore as well, but he gets the feel and he gets like the
holiday special.
I get the
Do
Western.
this.
I get the samurai. I
Yeah,
get
the holiday special. That's canon,
It
right?
loves tying.
Yeah.
Loves tying in
Well,
those
no.
things that
And
everybody
so,
like. I mean, yeah.
It's just
What are the
it-
weirdest creatures we can find?
it makes me.
But
Well,
no.
one, I think it's always exciting when they announce like some big person is.
my age is showing because now I'm thinking of Donnie and Marie. You guys don't
Oh
remember
yeah,
that
the
show.
Osmonds.
I'm a little bit Favreau. I'm a little bit Dave Filoni.
The fact that there's actually the clip of him talking
That could
to
be a whole thing.
Lucas with like a glee in his eye, like you've seen this from the holiday special because that's
And Lucas is like,
yeah.
It sums
Yeah,
it all
no,
up.
not so
Not
much.
really.
No,
yeah,
no,
no, not
no.
really.
the fact that they kept that in
The
there.
fact that they
Yeah,
put
yeah.
that out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, not really. It's
canon,
kind of like that.
yeah.
I feel like he's been really wanting to show him
Yeah.
it. Yeah, no, not really.
Okay, let's get back to it.
Oh man,
So
I love
fun.
it. Well, it's funny announcing news. Like when I'm trying to picture, like, okay, we're going to have we have a lineup who's going to come in and read for Rod of the Hutt, and we got Jeremy Allen White. He's coming in. Okay, great. Who do we have next? Well, we got John Hamm. He's reading. He's reading. And we've got Bryan Cranston who's going to read. It's just all these Emmy award-winning actors. Peter Dinklage. Peter Dinklage is going to read for Watto's son. That was a little too on the nose because he's small. But
Peter Dinklage. Talk about a big voice, Peter Dinklage.
yeah, it was just.
Do you guys have a prediction for what's coming?
For Skeleton Crew?
I think we're going to
beyond.
more planets.
More planets?
I do
more
too.
of the 9?
And more of the 9.
I agree.
The 9. I feel like it's the 9.
The 9.
9 hill?
Planets we
The
go
eye. What do you say? I am the
to.
storm.
I am.
the eye.
Martian Row?
By the
Martian
way,
Row.
if you guys have you
I need to go back and
if you
I
have
think
read
listen to
any of
Light
the High
Jedi.
Republic
It was
books,
so good.
Yeah.
if you've read any of the High Republic books, Light of the Jedi, listen to the audio book
They're great. They're
while
full-on
reading
dramatic.
it because the voice work of the Nihil and Martian Row, I love it.
I thought The Light of the Jedi is
am
one of the most
the eye.
cinematic Star Wars books I've ever read.
It is.
Like that
Yes.
immediately I was like, I would be happy if they announced tomorrow that they were going to make this into a movie.
Yes.
Like that it felt like.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I need to get back into reading Star Wars books.
Predictions
But
though.
predictions?
I think we'll maybe get, like Mike said, back to the parents a little bit. I think in the next episode we're gonna get more KB. That's
Yeah,
my
I can
prediction.
see that.
That's my prediction
think
for the next episode.
That feels
Yep.
like that's
We're gonna get
coming.
more KB. A little bit more of that, and probably off to one of the other planets.
Mm-hmm.
That's my guess. Kind of a little Mando-esque with like the episodal arc,
Yep.
like planet to planet to planet.
Yep. With the storyline following
Little
the view of
Jedi
the kids
Fallen
rather
Order.
than
Yeah.
these few cuts, but mainly following their view.
Yeah.
Yep. I have a couple predictions. One, Jod is going to go off the other way
Mhm.
for a while,
Yeah.
and then I believe he will get them home, and he's going to be misunderstood by all the parents. They're just going to think,
Yeah.
and it's never going to be resolved. The kids are going to know, he's going to know, but the parents and everybody else are going to think he's a bad guy,
And he'll
and
have
he's
to
going to save them by looking like a villain.
Uh-huh.
They'll know he's good. Everybody else will think he's a pirate. And he'll keep his reputation. He'll go off back into the galaxy as a pirate.
Ooh.
Yeah. That's
Prediction.
good. That's good.
It sparks him. His crew is coming back for him.
Oh yes,
His crew is out there.
You know he's
True.
there.
We haven't
and
seen him a couple
Wolfgang.
the,
episodes
the
now.
spaceport is not the end.
Wolfgang.
And Urkel's coming for him.
True.
And
They
they're-
are.
we've
They're
seen
gonna
that
hunt them down.
Yeah. And they promoted him as a big part of the show. So I think that there's
It's coming.
Yeah.
I think that's coming. I think that could be an interesting. That would be really interesting. They get to add to,
But they bring in these
and
pirates.
they bring in these pirates.
They beat him to At Attin.
Interesting. Ooh.
Yeah.
The crew.
Turns out that
Urkel had the
think-
plans.
I
We
think
love
we'll
Urkel.
I think we will see Jod at
Yeah.
some point testing his change of heart with treasure from At Attin. He's gonna
get a
when they
chance.
actually
He
make
could
it
actually
there,
get it and take it.
and he's gonna have a chance. His crew might even be following him there, and he has a chance to win them back and be like, "This is the score I've
This
been
is
telling
it."
you about."
Yep.
And is he actually gonna take
been
it,
waiting
or
for
is he gonna
you.
be?
Yeah.
Is he actually gonna take it, or is he gonna be changed?
Do we think sometime in this season, and again, this might be the only season we get, but do we think sometime in the next few episodes we find out who's like the head of At Attin? Like who is the person?
Who's behind it all?
I
Who
think
is
we-
the supervisor?
I
Who
think
is
that
the
might
head?
be one of the last couple episodes.
Could be.
Like who's the Wizard of Oz?
Like
well, I'm sure it's a
the Emperor's still out there pulling strings.
Yes,
moon.
sentimental man.
I don't know. We'll see. But-
Yeah, I
The moon be gone.
my
Sure.
Enough of that.
my prediction, they go to the next planet. It looks a lot like At Attin, but it's more intact. So they see another one that looks almost identical. First thing that happens is they go into one of the houses, and Neil draws a bubble bath.
I've
He's
been
just sitting
waiting
there.
for this.
Or are there going to be droids? Are we going to find droids on another
The
planet?
droids
though?
are still there.
on another
But the
planet.
people are gone.
I do
Yeah.
also legitimately
It's
wonder.
just all the apocalyptic scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is like the people are kind of remaining, but it's rubble. It's been destroyed. Next one is the droids take over.
The
AI
droids
takes
have
over.
taken over.
The next one is just like zombie apocalypse planet. It's just all
Next one's
of this.
lava.
The
Burned
next
up.
one, it's just all these classic '80s references. The next
Yeah.
one is these kids on bikes that just fly in the air.
Yeah.
Especially right across a nice
They
moon.
keep sending aliens home.
Yeah, and then after that, the next one is there's a DeLorean.
The DeLorean.
Yeah,
song.
back to you.
Great Scott,
And there's the
Neil?
upside down world
Neil? Yeah, the upside down.
where they all play
Neil,
D&D
Neil,
and
you
kill
telling me,
Demogorgons.
did you rip that off?
He's talking to John. John, the Libyans. It's John's Doc Brown now.
John is
We gotta get him. Of course, we gotta get him back. Yeah, I do think that they go to the next planet. Like they go to one of the other planets, and maybe they get the coordinates there. I don't
Yeah.
know because I'm not even sure that even when I'm saying
That's
it.
the
Like
plan. They go, we can't go there, we're going to go to the next
We
one.
go to the
We're
next
gonna
one.
try to see if these things are on that planet.
at the
Yeah.
very least, whether they get the coordinates from there, I think they get more answers. Maybe
More-
they
little
get
more
answers
It's
as
information.
KB's
to.
idea, by the way.
I like it.
KB.
I like it.
KB?
I'm excited.
I'm
halfway
excited. I love
halfway
it.
through,
The
it's been
show-
fantastic.
It's
Yep.
been fantastic. I'm
And
loving every bit of
I
it.
will say we said on the podcast, so we thought
It was going to be fantastic.
We thought it was gonna be like you've never seen, but
we thought that when they announced or when they released the roundtable, I think I even texted in the group. I said this is a good sign because
Yeah.
we were like they haven't done that for other shows in a
Mhm.
while
They
since
feel
like Mando
confident.
season 1 or 2.
They feel confident in
They
the show.
feel confident in this show. They have these creators who were a part of it who are still jazzed about talking about
Yeah.
it.
Even after it's done.
It's
right?
not one of those things where they're like, we did it, now I'm going to go do my movie.
I
Like,
am very
they're excited
excited
about it.
for Bryce Dallas Howard to redeem her Mando episode.
I heard Jack Black's in
Double
this one.
down. Jack Black's in there.
Lizzo. They got Lizzo.
Lizzo.
You know, perhaps when you look at it, they could have maybe a Beyonce. They could have someone else. Maybe they could throw in there to do.
You got to get in there
singing
quick
and
before
stuff.
that
Yeah.
P. Diddy stuff kicks in, though.
We shot this 2 years ago.
Stuff's going down.
We shot this 2 years ago. They have to put a trigger warning at the beginning. They say, "We wash our hands. We need a pardon." We say, "Pardon me."
All of a
But
sudden,
no,
Harvey
I don't know.
Weinstein's looking a little bit better. Comparing all these.
Oh man.
Sure. Scary.
There
What's
you have
up?
it.
No.
Skeleton,
No.
Skeleton
There
Crew,
you have it.
episode
Yeah.
4. Episode 4, Skeleton Crew. Let us know what you guys thought. If you made it this far, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, smash the notification bell. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Mike's got one
last
thing
comment.
to say.
Last
I think
comment in the quote.
when I'm looking at
I
our
was
table
rattling
here,
that off. by
I
the
know
way.
Boom.
you
This
got
guy
it.
really-
I didn't mean to disrupt you
Kicking it.
because this is not a serious thing to say. But
Neil?
I think the next episode we find out why Kylo's music was playing in the Acolyte.
We'll never get that answer.
We'll never find
show
out.
Never
I just
find
looked
out.
at the helmet and thought, we'll never have any. It's so unfortunate that we got
We would have.
And the
We
fact
would've
that they
too.
specifically came out and said that it was very intentional.
very intentional.
very
Like,
intentional.
no.
You'll find out in
Never.
Never.
In the animated
Yeah.
series that would come out.
you'll
They
find
say,
out
oh,
in
the
the
comic.
comics.
Well, we have a whole Shakespearean monologue that Plagueis delivers in episode 1 of season 2, and he's just sitting
Yeah.
there.
So there you have it.
Yeah.
I'm ready for my close up.
That's
Close.
Okay, Plagueis, take a break.
Plagueis, take it back to the trailer.
I put all this on for that?
We cut your scenes, Plagueis. we had a budgetary. We cut the entire
We got
show.
him. We got him big.
We got
Oh.
him well because we've got Superstar. We've got when
You
you,
know who
look
that
at
was in
you
the
know.
Plagueis costume?
George.
It was Brad Pitt.
It was
Brad
Brad Pitt.
Pitt.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Brad Pitt.
It was.
We got Timothy Chalamet as
Trying
Watto's
to
son.
branch out.
Just a branch out. It was Brad Pitt and Jimmy Kimmel. He's
Yeah,
just like no,
Leonardo.
we don't need.
God,
he's
do I
not
do
on
the
show.
boat thing now?
funny.
Put my hands out? No, that was the other movie.
Oh man.
It's so
I
good.
can
That's
flying. No, you're canceled.
There you have it. We'll catch you guys in the next one for I almost said Acolyte for
Oh.
Skeleton Crew
Skeleton
episode.
Crew. At
5.
Acolyte.
You know, one of the plans was at Acolyte, and they had to change it
Acolyte.
after the reception.
Are you sure? It sounds familiar.
Let's keep delaying Nate ending this here.
See you next time. May the Force be with you.
Limb from limb, limb from you. Always go for the off switch. Always go for the off switch. Just passes.
It's okay. I'll close down for a while.
Neil? Neil.
Yeah, I know.
KB,
I was-
KB's taking her oil bath because she's just a droid. Oh boy.
I did love that scene where she's like,
Yeah. So good. Man, love